What's up, guys? Welcome to Life of Acro. I'm Acro Brandon, and this is my life. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. The Chinese superstars. Well, if you don't know what the Chinese superstars are, we're not talking about these kinds of Chinese superstars. What we're really talking about is Chinese superstars as in Tramp knockoffs for like 250 bucks. Let's take a look and open up the box. This box is actually really nice and big. So let's talk about what we've got here. So if you're not familiar, Trampa has some really nice gear on their website. They're definitely like very nice, high-end, expensive type of stuff. I support what they do. Their products are definitely tried, tested, and proven. And I support what they do. Unfortunately, my wallet cannot support them. So I decided to give these Trampa knockoffs a try here. So let's take a look at what we got here. This came really quick. It took maybe like, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ordering from China. We're gonna talk a little bit more about it. So we've got tube and tire. I got 8-inch, blue's my color. We've got some pulleys right here. So what do we got? I got the black rims with the blue spoke. And these bearings will actually fit on an 8mm axle, which is nice because I don't need to source different bearings. Okay, so 1, 2, over here, 2, 3, 4, 4 and 4, right? Because if you're gonna order stuff, you might as well make sure you have enough supplies, right? So what have I got here? We've got 4 complete rims, tires, tubes, and spokes, and then I got a whole nother set, 8-inch tires and tubes, and then 2 pulleys that are made of aluminum, and there looks to be like some hardware here. 62T pulleys. On their listing, they say they sell 66 and 72. There's actually a typo in the picture. It says 62, which is actually better for me just because it's gonna fit on my motor mount a little bit better. So I asked them if they could give me 62. They said they could do it, they could make it happen, and they made it happen. So this looks really cool. It opens up. So 2 of those. So all of this, yeah, 4 full tires, 4 backup tires with more than enough tubes, 2 pulleys, $250 shipped from China. That's a pretty good deal. And it smells really good too. So if you didn't know, last year right around this time I actually did a video on the AliExpress 6-inch tires that were $200. You can actually get those off of the forum now from Dickie Ho. He's got that sourced, it's set up. They already come with, he's got like a nice aluminum pulley, so I'll put a link in the video right now that has the link to that video and all the different information. So if you want to take a look at those. Let's actually take a look at those on the board right now. Let's go for a little bit of a field trip. I've been rocking these for almost a year now. And I just changed the tire not too long ago. Don't mind my headlight, that just fell off. I actually ate shit earlier in the week and killed the mount, but a new one's coming. But down here, so these tires lasted me a good 4 to 6 months, and I do a lot of high mileage riding, so I was excited about that. They're super sturdy. I've never had any issues with them, so I'm super excited about that. I just finished building a same thing, a super low street carver on 107 with a top mount box, and we're currently in process of swapping out some motor pulleys. I'm going to gear down 1636 for a little more torque, and then over here I'm running 2060, so I might try 1860 for a little more torque as well. This thing definitely gets up to the mid 30s, at least 36 to 38 on the regular if I want to go for a speed test, and I'm quite interested to see what's actually going to happen with the 8-inch tires. So let's just take a look at the construction of this thing here. Yeah, I mean, they got it right. This is a nice, blue's my color, so that's why I ordered blue. Feels fairly nice and has a good squish to it. The plastic black seems good to me. I didn't want to get white because white always gets dirty or it fades or it gets kind of weird, so hopefully this black will hold up. And the fact that it fits on an 8-inch axle is really nice here too. So we've got some knobby tires, and the AT 6-inch ones are pretty nice for, I would call it an all-terrain tire, but if you try to take it really off-road, like into dirt or grass, I tend to max out around 15 miles an hour before it starts to feel a little bit squirrely, where you feel like, you know, you might fall off, and you definitely can't carve hard and make big turns. So I'm hoping that the tread on this right here, this nice knobby looking tire, will actually offer me a little more grip for that kind of stuff, yeah? So I'm not really sure which direction I want to have it face forward, if I want it to roll in this direction and channel water away if I happen to ride it on rainy days, or if I'm going to have the tread coming towards me with the thorns giving me extra gription while I'm riding. Really, overall, I'm hoping that the actual knobby part of this will give me the grip that I need, and maybe I'll have this kind of arrow pattern rolling forward here too. With that being said, this is an 8-inch tire, and I'm a little concerned that it might not fit on the board itself. I mean, it'll fit, but once I start to turn, I might get wheel bite. In retrospect, maybe I should have ordered a backup pair of just 7-inch tires. That way, if these were too big, that I could get something smaller. But so far, this actually looks really good. What I'm going to do here in just a minute is I'm actually going to deconstruct one of these wheels anyways, because I would have to put a pulley on it. So we can take a look at how this rim breaks apart, what this stuff looks like. And then for another little test, I actually ended up getting a set of 8-inch tires on accident from Dickie Ho. They're more of a street tire. I'm wondering if they're going to fit on this hub here, just out of curiosity. So if they do, I'll let you know that as well. We're going to take a look at that. Let's do some work. All right, so let's break this down. I like using power tools. I'm nice and lazy. So I've got this, just a little screwdriver. This is the nut on the back side is a 7mm. It actually doesn't fit 100% perfectly tight. The 6 was too small, so whatever a 6.5mm is, maybe it's a standard type of nut, but this will hold it, right? And then we've got our drill bit over here, which goes on, or a little socket driver, or whatever you want to call this. And Allen, what size is this over here? It is a Stanley 87 960. It doesn't say. This is the smallest one I have here. Anyways, we'll make this nice and quick. Done. Dishes are done, man.
Out of the shop. Dishes are done, man. Cleans them down to the shop.
So, pull these out. The hardware looks a little bit longer over here for the wheel pulley. But let's take a look, see how this comes together, how it comes apart, if it's easy, if it's hard, I don't know. I've never broken one of these apart yet. This is separating very nicely. Okay, so this is super lightweight. It weighs like nothing. It looks like it's slightly, I guess, beveled on the inside to hold this part. Here is, I'll just fish this out. Yep, half of the ring adapter. I'm sure they probably bought some Trampas and figured out how to knock it off in CAD and all of that great stuff. Here's the other side over here. Same thing, the spoke comes out, the other half, we understand what's happening here, right? And then here is this little spacer in the middle. I guess that's what board bumpers does, right? Like, it's a big spacer that goes in the middle but can reduce down the bearing to the appropriate size. Inside, it doesn't look like there's a spacer within these two bearings. So, you know, whatever. I mean, I guess people like to have an extra spacer on the inside to spread the load, typically between two bearings, but I wonder if this thing alone, you know, I can't tell if this is like plastic or if it's actually like a metal material. I think it's more of like, or maybe it's like a POM, or some kind of other. But these bearings are not coming out easily. So, oh, there we go. There's a little push. So I guess I could get the bearing out with just a little bit of elbow grease and some work, but who cares? I'm not going to try and make my life too difficult. Let me grab the scale and let's just see what all of these different bits and pieces weigh, just so we can see that and we have the tech info on that, okay? Okay, so we're in business. Let's weigh one of these wheels here. I'll just take one of these ones that was already fully put together, and we'll put this on the scale, see what it says. It says 1 pound, 4 ounces, or if you're into European numbers and all of that magical stuff, where are we at? 570 grams roughly. Okay, so we'll come back here. Oh yeah, 552 milliliters if we're looking at liquidiostite. So 1 pound, 4 ounces, just the wheel alone. Then if I put the pulley on top, we're looking at 1 pound, 11.5 ounces just for one wheel. That's going to be your gear drive pulley here, okay? Wheel and pulley. If we just put the pulley there by itself, 7.4 ounces, which also comes out to, come on, 210 grams roughly, or if you're looking for the whole shebang in European numbers, 780 grams is what the wheel's going to be. Let's take a look at the spoke. Aluminum, super light, super teeny. Let's tear that back out. Come on. We got 29 grams on the spoke. Let's see if the other one weighs exactly the same, right? Because that'd be kind of disappointing. Oh my God, it's 1 gram. Oh, it went back down. All right, they're both the same weight. And then the little bearing holder in the center, 52 grams, right? That's basically, what, 2 ounces of weed right there? But I wouldn't know anything about that. 1.8 ounces here. 1.1 ounces on the spoke, okay? So not too shabby. I mean, I don't even know. You're gonna have to go back and watch the other video and I can tell you how much it weighs. But before we put these on the board and see how things look, let's talk about the Dicky Ho wheel, okay? So this is the tire, whatever. He does sell 8-inch tires and have a setup there for like a budget 8-inch. So this is a 200 by whatever, I don't know, 1.5 inch or something like that, but you can take a look-see at what this tire looks like. It's nice, it's more of a street tire, okay, whatever. It's like I don't know if it's like an F-Zero or whatever they advertise. But we wanna see, I could measure, but that would be too easy, right? Let's just see if I hold it side by side. Do the holes look the same? It looks pretty close. I don't know, you know? Like, I know I'm gonna stick the rim inside of it in just a second, but I think the inner diameter of the tire itself looks pretty close. What if I take this spoke right here and I push it through? Is it gonna work? Maybe. Oh yeah. It's a little snug. It might not actually fit on this Tramp style rim. It's actually not slipping in there. It's just a little too tight, but you know, it's nothing we can't force it with just a little bit of lube and a little elbow grease, right? Okay, ready? Here we go. On the count of 3, 1, 2, oh, and on 3 you're gonna inhale. Okay, ready? 1, 2! Just kidding. That's how you make it work. No, so this is not going inside. Woo, starting to fall over. Oh my God, shit's falling everywhere. So I'm not able to get this tire over this part of the rim, so these just might be totally unusable. It's just off by just a little bit. Whereas, let's just try and see, right? If I come back over here, I take this, I put it in, oh yeah, like butter. It just fits in there perfectly. So I don't know what the ID is right now. My little caliper, my measuring, what do you call that thing? My mic gauge, I guess, is broken right now. I need to go to a new battery. But with that being said, yeah, so this one, the spoke that's meant to be for this tire, slides in here perfectly, nice and easy, and comes out really nice and easy, no fighting, no craziness. And then we come over here to the Dicky Ho 8-inch tire, and it's just a little too thin on the inner diameter of his tire, so I'm not going to be able to use these. So I don't know what rims they actually will fit on, but a Trampa and a Trampa knockoff is not going to work. So I'm going to put the motor pulley onto a couple of these wheels, and then we'll take a look in a minute at the board, see what it looks like with everything mounted up. I have a feeling that, you know, I'm going to get wheel bites, so I'm going to have to figure out how to make those fit. I might have to get extra wide trucks, which, you know, that just might be a Christmas gift to myself, to get some like 12 to 16 inchers so I can clear the board, or I could get super DIY and start shaving off some wood on the inside. But I feel like I'm tired of like DIYing shit, and I just want parts to roll and plug and play, but we'll see what happens. Okay, so we'll be back in just a second. I lied, we're not 100% ready to go to the board yet. We actually got to put air back in the tire. So I wanted to show you this little air pump. We were actually talking about this on the forum the other day. Some guy was rolling around and he's like, I don't have any spare tubes for my tire. Does anybody have one? And I said, well, why did you buy pneumatic tires but not any spare tubes at the same time? It just doesn't make sense. At some point in time, you're going to spring a leak or the valve is something's going to happen, it's stupid just to not have a spare tube. But then I was saying it's funny because I always ride around with a spare tube, but I don't ride around with an air pump, which makes no sense because if I get a flat tire, great, I could change the tire in the tube, but I have no way of inflating it. So while I was at Walmart today, I was like, all right, let's get a new air pump. Now the first one I had was like a $10 one from Bell for my bike, no gauge or anything, but they have this one for $15, which is cool, right? It's got a little gauge on it. It's got two things, so you can do a regular tire and you just turn it and you put it on and you screw it like so and it screws down and then it holds in and you can read the air pressure while you're pumping it at the same time. So if you've ever inflated pneumatic tires, you know it's a little tricky getting it inflated, and then every time you try to check the air, a little air escapes and then it goes under and you got to play this game of going up and down and back and forth, and you still got to do that. I have an air compressor downstairs in the basement. It's a pain in the ass to set up, but I was just filled up the first tire. What was really cool is this rotates and then you could actually stand on it so you could pump up and down. So that's kind of interesting. So I'm going to pump up this other one. It says to 60. I think it reads pretty well. I'm still going to use an air pressure gauge later to see how accurate this thing is. But now we're going to go and see how these look on the board. But that was just a little FYI. If you need an air pump, this thing's $15. It'll fit in the backpack. Should definitely have extra tubes. And it's got a nice little air gauge in it. That way you can just pump it all the way up and be done with it. Yeah? Cool. Let's check out the board. So this is what it looks like with the nut removed and the spacer there. I don't know if you can see how much space is right there, but it looks to be a few millimeters. I think we could totally stack that up with a bunch of speed rings to make the gap. Or if what I probably would do is I would just take one of these spacers really quick and throw it on my angle grinder and grind it down to the right thickness if I wanted it to have this little gap right here. Or I could probably go to Home Depot and maybe I'll be able to find something the right size with one of their aluminum spacers that's just a little bit tighter. But anyways, let's keep going. I'm going to throw the rear wheels on and we'll set up the entire board and then we'll see how close we are to getting wheel bite and what the rest of it looks like. You can see right here that I am able to get it to fit, but it's going to take somewhere like, I don't even know how many I want to. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, close to 10 speed washers just to gap it so that the pulley sits just flush, so that it pushes it back a little bit. The good news there is that all I have to do is just put one more speed washer on top between the bearing and the lock nut and we'll be good. But take a look at this weird wobble that the pulley has. The tire seems to be okay by itself, but the pulley, I mean, and really there's no adjustments, right? Because you take the pulley, you put the bolts in and they go through the spokes go through. So it's not like it could ever be off center. It just bolts straight on, right? So let's take a look at that. We've got the wheel on. This is interesting. It's got a little bit of a wobble. Watch, I'm going to shake it for you. Here it is, really. Boom. If you can see the imperfection in the wobble from the pulley. I don't know how that's going to ride. Or what kind of wobble we would get out of the tire. Maybe they need to settle a little bit, but the pulley, I feel like, you see how it kind of has an imperfection of a left to a right? And I wonder if there's any way to measure this, but I'll leave this to the higher ups on the forum to give me a determination. So I got the wheel on with my 6 inches, with my 6-inch wheels and a 60T wheel pulley, and I'm rocking 20 on the motor, so 3-to-1 gear ratio. I have a 430 millimeter belt, and I can rock dual idlers. On this, that was a little bit too much tension with the extra 2 teeth. So if I just go single idler, it actually works fine, and the belt has just the right amount of tension, and I'm okay with that. It's actually a little slacky, so I could push it down a little bit more here. I might have to adjust that, or maybe even just put a small set of bearings underneath there as well. Let's take a look at this bad boy. It looks really good with the blue tires on it. What I would say is that I need a little adjustment on the other side. I mean, obviously 10 bearings, 10 speed ring washers obviously would just be like one bearing spacer. I could drop that on, that could push it out really good. Over here, I just put one washer. It still leaves it out a little bit further, so I could totally adjust the motor closer to the pulley a little bit. as far as wheel bite, let's take a look at this. Don't mind my beautiful feet as I stand on the board, because you know you're not supposed to wear shoes in the house. If I lean hard, and I can't lean too hard because I actually sprained my ankle, but if I push over here, it looks like the front has just barely enough clearance, leaning to my toe side, and the same thing leaning over here to my heel side, which is interesting because in the back, I'm getting a lot more wheel bite, which I don't really understand why yet, but I'll have to take a look at that. But over here, so if we look at the rear area, if I lean hard enough, you can definitely see it's touching there. And then same deal over here, boom, 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 pushing back. You can hear I definitely got a little bit of wheel bite. So I guess an option would be to try and move the entire truck assembly back just a little bit. I wonder if like 1/2 inch would be enough, and if that would screw up any of the integrity, or I might have to create like a new, I don't know if I would need an extra plate or if this plate is enough, but if I just reinforced it with a little metal underneath, top and bottom, just to kind of help make the structure of the wood a little stronger as we shift the holes back just a little bit to get the needed clearance for the tires. But for now, I think it looks fucking awesome. I don't know about you. And then I didn't even spin the wheel on this side to see how the pulley was. This one has a little less wobble than the other pulley. I don't know, it's kind of interesting, right? Their fucking tolerances, or whatever it is, or quality control in China. Maybe I should have just gone with a 66. But even then, I have just barely enough room to use one of my idlers, which is part of the reason why I wanted a 62T, so that I could still maintain that, because these are Janix mounts right here, so you can't actually slide for tensioning between the pulley. So I'm going to play with putting, these are just regular 608 bearings, but I'm going to use a smaller set, I don't know what size they are, on the bottom, and see if my 630 belt with this works. I have a 615, it's just too small. So a single idler, I would need something like a 620, maybe a 625 on the high side. But for the 630, dual idler works probably with 2 smaller size bearings. So that's the next thing I'm going to play with, and then we're going to see what happens here. All right, guys, that's a wrap. So let's review everything that we looked at here today and talk about what we know and what needs to be fixed. What do we know? $250 shipped, 4 complete tires, rims, and tubes, 2 pulleys. 2 pulleys, one that kind of wobbles. I don't know if I'm going to continue to use it, but I probably will. And then we got 4 more tires and 4 more tubes as a backup set. $250 shipped express from China. Took about 2, maybe 3 weeks tops. Okay, we also know that the Dicky Ho tire will not fit on the Tramp rim. We also know that for a torque board 218 millimeter truck, hanger, axle combo, whatever you want to call it, that the wheels will fit. You're just going to need to have some additional speed rings, or maybe grind down a spacer, or try to find one at Home Depot and not have to do much work. We know that on my current board, which is a Yokohama Yokohama, I don't know if I'm ever saying that name right, but I'm going to pretend like it's Yokohama. On a Yokohama deck, that's a double drop. It's not a double drop, it's a single drop, but it's got like a 1.5 inch drop, that for some reason I might not get wheel bite on the front, but on the rear, I definitely need to either get wider trucks, we'll talk about that in a second, or move the trucks back like a 1/2 inch, and I should probably have just enough clearance. Or we get wider trucks, which is not in the budget, because if I need wider, bigger trucks, there isn't a caliber style hanger that's wider than 220 millimeters currently at this point in time, and I would need something wider than that. So that means hangers or a new truck from MBS or Trampo, which is not in the budget right now, because that'd be like another $200. That also brings me up to a 10 to a 12 millimeter axle, which means more bearings, right? So a lot of complicated stuff. I'm just trying to make the shit I have work with on a budget. With that being said, so if you are using Janix mounts that have the idler on it, I think what we can probably get away with is a 420 millimeter belt with a single idler. Should be just around the sweet spot. I'm going to measure one more time in order, but the 430s are too much. There's too much slack for a single idler, and even with a big bearing and a small bearing on the top and bottom, it's still too tight. So 420 is probably going to be the sweet spot for a single bearing. Otherwise, if you wanted dual idlers with that, you'd probably need to move up to like a 440 millimeter belt. Or another option, I'm throwing all these weird options and crazy options as, is to gear down, because right now I have a 20 millimeter gear or a 20 tooth gear on the motor. So if I drop to an 18, that might be the extra 5 to 10 millimeters that I need to get the belt on. So it's kind of up in the air, but that's also a potential option. So if you like what you're seeing, hit subscribe, hit like, comments, likes, all that good stuff. If you have any comments on what I could do better about the wobbly ass pulley, if I should tell them, hey, this thing's a piece of shit, send me another one, that's probably a potential option. Or what you think, because really there's no way to balance it. You can't really screw this thing up. Right? You have the rims, you have the spoke, the thing goes on the spoke. It's not like you screw up how to get that thing set there right and properly. Okay, so more stuff to come. Stay tuned. I'm Acro Brandon. This is Life of Acro. And this is my life. Till next time.